My name is Larry Good. I am chairman of Historic Santa Fe Foundation. Welcome to our annual meeting and garden party. So nice of you to come. Our agenda today is as follows. I will make only 3 or 4 statements, and then I'm going to turn it over to Melanie to give you a state of the foundation, which should be interesting. There's been so much going on. And then we will have a wonderful time of remembering nancyowenlewis and celebrating her life. So looking forward to that. Well, I told you that I'm the chairman. One of the things that we did today in our board meeting was that we elected our slate of officers for the coming year, and I need to introduce them and announce that. I will serve another year as chairman. Greg Walke, our vice chair, is continuing. Good. We have a new treasurer. Mike Casey, would you wave your hand? So glad to welcome you to the board. Tim Sweeney is our secretary. Tim is away on vacation, so he's not with us today. And Jim Baker is our new director at large. Jim in the sunglasses there. Thank you. We have to say so long to one of our long-serving board members. Harlan Flint has term limited off the board. He was our treasurer. Harlan, step forward and let us thank you. And I'm going to hand you a card and a gift from the organization. And you are not obliged to open it and read everything, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. But we just want to thank you. Really have enjoyed working with you.
Well, thanks very much, Larry.
Yeah. Okay, Melanie, let me just turn it over to you.
Okay.
And I think I have to turn over our recording device too.
Yes. And before my papers go away, I'm going to put that down there from the board meeting.
Okay. Here, I'll hold this while you do that.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, thanks.
Okay, good. Got it?
Yep,
Okay. Can't do without that.
thank you.
I'm just going to use your seat.
And Pete's going to be my water boy over here if I need it now.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, you're holding my water bottle. So hello, everyone. I'm Melanie McWhorter. I'm the executive director here at Historic Santa Fe Foundation. And we do have our former executive director, Pete Warzel, here this evening, who's going to be one of our readers. And I'll introduce all of them later this evening. So thank you all for attending, members, donors, and friends of nancyowenlewis. Last year's garden party, we welcomed you to a newly renovated Zaguán with a new staff person, Ann Kelly, who is right there recording our video tonight, who's executed 12 exhibitions. She's also expanded the representation of local artists in our gift shop, including partnership exhibitions with professionally curated shows with Galisteo Arts, and also with Tamarind Institute in a joint fundraising exhibition earlier this year. She also conceived of the 100% exhibition that we had this year with donated works. So the foundation received 100% of the proceeds for that exhibition that we had earlier this year. And every one of our shows since Ann started have been incredibly successful. So thank you, Ann. Other staff changes this year include the resignation of our 3-year employee, Hannah Churchwell, and Hannah's not here. We do wish her luck and absence in her travels and her future professional life. But with this opportunity, we shifted some of the responsibilities of the staff, and we hired Story Coleman, who many of you may have met. I don't know if Story still might be on the portal, who you met at check-in. She is a student of anthropology and sociology with experience in radio and art galleries. So we're happy to have her. She's going to be managing communications, development, and events. So you'll be hearing quite a lot from her. So if you see Story again, just give her a little welcome. And I'm happy that Julia Caparuccio is now our education manager. She's taking on many of the responsibilities of creating easements, managing the register of properties worthy of preservation. If you see those shield-shaped plaques around town, including the gate out front here, she's managing those responsibilities and expanding our archives in her role as historian. In late 2023, we acquired the Edwin Brooks House, now housing the Eugene and Claire Thaw Education and Research Center. Some of you had the opportunity to visit the building. If you did not, we do have an opening tomorrow night from 5 to 7 with Sharon Stewart's work. I'll talk about that in a moment. We were still trying to figure out the best use of the historic structure to serve our mission. The Thaw Center and Brooks House are now a multi-use facility with mission-oriented programming. We started moving our files and binders to the Thaw Center, and we have the pleasure to host Cassia Asset, a student from Dominican University and a master's in library science, Colette Lee and Helen Marlowe, who are both of Santa Fe Prep, and Miles Barth, and is Miles Barth back there having a snack, of St. John's College as interns in this past year. And they've all been helping a lot with the archives, so they've had an opportunity to kind of explore. So I want to share with you some of the staff and the interns' favorite finds in the archives so far. Cassia's favorite find in the archives was a video of Gustav Baumann's puppet shows, of one of his puppet shows. Miles' favorite has been correspondence between Sylvia Loomis and the tenants and an old tenant application that included the request for the applicant's height and hair color, which we might not be able to get away with anymore. We're not renting to redheads anymore, now that I'm a blonde. Julia's favorite find was cards from Margareta Dietrich when she hosted an event to learn about protection in case of air raids over Santa Fe. This year, we're honored to be one of the nonprofits to receive a bequest from the Hope Curtis estate. Hope documented many of the repairs along in Historic Santa Fe Foundation's properties over the years. As part of the estate management, the executor reached out to us, and Miss Curtis had over 30 binders of photos and negatives of places like the Donaciano Vigil House, the Garcia House, El Zaguán, the Baumann House, and many others that she photographed as a volunteer for Historic Santa Fe Foundation. We're working to fund more scanning, organizing, and creating finding guides for these materials and many others to make them publicly available at the Thaw Center and online. We could not have done all this without the efforts of many volunteers of the past, many who I might not have even known about. And I know there was some grant work that was done right before I started and as I started here. But we also want to thank our donors who kind of were really into the archives last year. None of them are here this evening, but John Gray, Ray Landy, Toby Watson, and Janet DeFors. So they've helped us support revamping the archives in 2024. So far, there are 3 uses for this house. A research center that includes many books, especially on water in the Southwest, thanks to a donation by John and Betty Baxter. And if you come tomorrow, Julia will be there, and you can look in the library. We also have it's a home for our intern during the summer months, and an exhibition space for educational shows. We're pleased to announce programming for 2025 with the work of Sharon Stewart with an exhibition called Timeless Waters, Acequia Culture in New Mexico. Sharon, are you here? There's Sharon, yay! She'll be here tomorrow night too, like I said. Sharon is a longtime resident of Chacon in Mora County and offers her silver gelatin prints of the cleaning of the acequias in the eastern part of the state. This black and white work is presented in contrast with her color work, demonstrating the damage to the acequias caused by the Hermit's Peak and the Calf Canyon fires. So if you have time tomorrow, please come by from 5 to 7. Sharon will be doing a public talk at 6 p.m. We do have a private reception that we're doing on September 18th, and we'll put up more information about that later. And then we're also going to host an AIA Santa Fe exhibition in October, kind of in some of their visions of future of Santa Fe. Don't have the description yet, so I don't want to elaborate too much. And then we'll host a Dorothy Stewart exhibition in 2026. And if you can join us tomorrow, please come by from 5 to 7. The show does continue until September 26th, so you have some time. And we're going to keep regular hours, Monday through Friday, 1 to 4:30. So if you do miss it, you could come back during that time. We hosted a musical performance in a partnership with Currents New Media Festival. New Mexico PBS crew filmed in the historic house. We hosted a dinner for the last reception with the last exhibition with Don Usner with his Chimayo photography, and partnered with Olive Rush Memorial House and Studio for a joint tour. So we've made some great use of the property since we acquired it under Pete. I know there's some joke about me blacking his eyes later on, just so we know. We are grateful to the Tia Collection and Laura Finley Smith. I don't know if Laura made it or not. She was going to come this evening, for making a donation for the hanging system and the lighting. So if you go over there, it's an incredibly elegant display. Our preservation and projects manager, Jacob Cisneros, who's back there as well, discovered that the wall was cinder block when hanging Don Usner's work. So we're grateful for the new lighting system for its elegance and ease of use compared to the drill bits that Jacob would be breaking over the years trying to get through the cinder block walls. The delay in the exhibition was a result of a denied grant from the New Mexico Humanities Council through the National Endowment for the Humanities. As many of you know, much of the federal funding was cut, and we were one of the nonprofits that lost one of the grants. We received some donations to help us make up for the difference, and decided to proceed with the show on the acequia because we think acequia and water education are crucial topics of discussion in New Mexico. Thanks to Michelle Dean, Greg Walke, who's one of our board directors who's here this evening, Ruth Beth Feinerman, who's not here tonight. She's a master gardener, the head of the master gardeners, and her husband, Ross Sackett, and Deanne McIntyre for their support to get this off the ground. So we're really happy to be launching this. Our first talk as part of this exhibition programming is with Jesse Roach, the interim director of the City of Santa Fe's Public Utilities Department, on past, present, and future water use in Santa Fe, and that's July 24th. We have these in there if anybody wants to pick up and find out about any of our upcoming events. They're in the front office, and that's included in there too. If I don't make sure it doesn't blow away. And we're so proud of our ongoing and new youth and public education programs. We hosted 2 family days last year on the grounds. They were bustling with children and caregivers, learning about the gardens and our partner organization, Santa Fe Extension Master Gardeners, and who care for the garden that you now sit in. And with the help of Jacob, volunteers, and staff, we built many adobe bricks, which I have one back here somewhere. Here it is. Here's the little adobe bricks that we built for the event. And then we also were able to publish this with the help of New Mexico's Humanity Council. So this is almost like a revamping of We're So Lucky to Live in Santa Fe. So it's kind of our re-envisioning of that, but we do have some of Leanne Jordan's illustrations that are included in here. So it kind of pays homage to this previous children's publication that we did in years gone by. And we also had the Santa Fe Children's Museum and George O'Keeffe Museum here with some of their educational buses for additional activities. We had support of Sam's Club, Century Bank, and then the New Mexico Humanities Council grant to put forward this publication. And then there's some of the publication in the gift shop if you're interested in one. The high school fellow Colette Lee created 3 panels at the MEME Architect Office on the campus of Santa Fe Prep. We could not be more proud of Colette for serving as 2 years as a high school fellow, taking on the plaza and obelisk as a research topic for her first paper, an extensive interpretation project with the oversight of Mac Watson, Nick Worth, who's back there, is also on our board, Lisa Nordstrom, who's on our board but not here this evening, and the assistants from Prep and Dr. Audra Belmore at the MEME Archives at UNM. Colette presented at Prep for their Alumni Day and offered an article in our summer newsletter if you want to learn more about it, and that should be available online soon. Our Mac Watson Fellow for 2025 is Ryuichi Nakayama. He is a PhD candidate in art history at UNM. With the oversight of Dr. Belmore and our education committee and Julia on our staff, he is producing a complex document focusing on multi-home historic compound off of Acequia Madre Street. Last night, we launched the Distinguished Speaker Series, sponsored by Barbara and Larry Good, and La Fonda on the Plaza, and held at La Fonda. For the first lecture, we hosted Devendra Contractor, principal of DNCA Architects, and Cody Hartley, the director of the O'Keeffe Museum, for a lecture titled Designing the New O'Keeffe in a Historic Context. Personally, and yet I think this is a universal feeling for the evening, I went away inspired and felt very positive about the beautifully designed structure that's so respectful of its place in downtown Santa Fe and embraces the traditions of New Mexico. I think everyone left looking forward to stepping in the building and exploring the surrounding grounds. We're plan to announce one more of the Distinguished Speaker Series before the end of the year. So I need my water now, Pete.
Yeah.
We're working on a curriculum for an 8-week class in the fall to teach 12 to 17-year-olds, participants at the Teen Center near the Southside Library. This course, taught by Julia, will be an introduction to architecture in Adobe building. We also restarted our docent program thanks to Jennifer Kirtland, who is here. Where's Jennifer Kirtland, yay! Who's also on our development committee, and Jan Collette, who led the charge in creating the script and conducting the tours every Friday at 2 p.m. So we still do those. I'm like, make sure I'm on the right page. The focus of last year's garden party was a talk by board director Greg Walke on the Endangered Properties Program. We received a certified local government grant from the City of Santa Fe to explore this program within the city limits. We discovered that there are many challenges within the city limits. In partnership with Santa Fe's Habitat for Humanity, using funding largely from Housing and Urban Development and the state's Mortgage Finance Authority, there were restrictions on the appraisal value of the homes of $380,000, including improvements. And we all know the value of homes within the city, and many of them could not come under this value. There were other issues including financial qualifications, the title and home occupation, repairs being too extensive for the amount of money, funding available, liens, etc. Yet with these challenges presented, we were really grateful to have the CLG grant to explore some of these, and thanks to Pete also for helping launch some of this before he left. And Historic Santa Fe Foundation still wants to work in partnership with other preservation organizations and housing organizations to explore ways that we can help preserve historic homes for affordable housing, and also with a focus on generational home ownership. Lastly, we hosted our annual preservation awards with Old Santa Fe Association and the City of Santa Fe this year. And Historic Santa Fe Foundation awarded 2 homes and homeowners, the Dorothy McKibben House and Plaza Chamisal. In an effort to produce more public educational programming during this month as well and create community, foster discussion, we hosted what we planned to be an annual event called Preserving Place, the Santa Fe Symposium. We thought, what a better time than when the city is working on the newest version of the land use code and general plan to start something like this and open up discussion. And if you want information on some of what the city is doing and ways to participate, there's a website called Santa Fe Forward at santafeforward.org, and that provides public comment and also lets you know about programming that they have and how you can participate in some of that. This year's symposium was held at New Mexico History Museum, who graciously offered the space at no charge, which is wonderful. The panels included the City of Santa Fe Land Use Department, Historic Preservation Division staff on archaeology in Santa Fe, along with archaeologist Steve Post and Tesuque Pueblo liaison and former Governor Mark Mitchell. The State Preservation Office talked about what their department does. AIA Santa Fe architects Gayla Bechtel, Richard Martinez, Sean Evans, and Beverly Spears presented. And OSFA and Historic Santa Fe Foundation talked about their respective organizations and how we are similar and different, but I don't know if we came to the conclusion just yet. It's to be determined. But it was still a wonderful discussion, and we went over some of our programming. We concluded with architect and Friends of Architecture Santa Fe President Anthony Guida, giving a history of the city's land use policy and related plans since 1912. The recordings of the panels are online under our Education and 2025 Preservation Month, if anyone would like to hear them, with the exception of archaeology. We're still waiting on Tesuque Pueblo permission for that one. But what I want to finish up with tonight is some related questions, similar to what Guido proposed to the audience for that day. What does preservation mean to you? How are history and preservation important to Santa Fe? Why should they be important? Where is history's place in today's world? How should this change with consideration of modern concerns and issues like climate change, inclusion, and affordable housing? What can governments and nonprofits do when considering these questions? So please let us know your thoughts. So members and friends, thank you so much for being here and for listening to me today. And I appreciate all of you. And I know there's some other donors who we may have missed, but we appreciate all of you here and your support and your attendance at this wonderful event. And thank you for the wonderful weather. And then pretend I left and came back. So now we're going to move on to our next part of this evening. So the annual members meeting and garden party, we usually have a speaker. But this year we are remembering a former Historic Santa Fe Foundation board chair, volunteer, researcher, scholar, green chili cheeseburger connoisseur, and all-around funny and lovely woman, nancyowenlewis. We have 3 speakers who will share a brief memory of Nancy and present a self-selected short reading from Nancy's extensive catalog, including books like A Particular Alchemy, Peculiar Alchemy, I mess this up every time, Jean's giving, A Peculiar Alchemy, A Centennial History of School for Advanced Research, Chasing the Cure in New Mexico, Tuberculosis and the Quest for Health, and her upcoming book on dogs and the war effort during World War II that'll be published by School for Advanced Research. If you want to know about that, there might be some SAR staff here who could tell you about it. If you want to pre-order your copy now. And before we start, also I want to thank her friends and family for being here, and including Deborah and James Walker. It's Deborah?
Deborah's here.
Deborah. Okay. Deborah and James Walker. Deborah is Nancy's husband Paul's younger sister. Yes, youngest sister. Only younger, youngest, both, yeah. And then Kachina Walker is Nancy's aunt. Is that correct? Or Nancy was your aunt? Nancy was your aunt. Yes, so thank you. And I don't know if there's any other family members here this evening, but thank you for being here. So our first reader for this evening is Pete Warzel. So, and it was going to be our last reader, and we switched around the order. So I did say last but not least. Pete,
least but not least. All right.
Yeah. Pete was Historic Santa Fe Foundation's executive director from 2024 until his retirement in 2014. Sorry, I made it a very short term. 2014 until his retirement in 2024. Previously, he held executive positions in major telecommunications and entertainment companies. He now writes quirky essays, indeed, about the American West and is teaching his granddaughter to drive. So help me welcome Pete Warzel.
Oh, yeah. This is clip.
Here we have.
Yeah. Thank you.
Here you are, sir.
Thank you.
Give me your water.
No. Thank you, Melanie, for having me here. And it is really a joy to see all my old friends and colleagues. Thanks to Historic Santa Fe for inviting me back for this remembrance of Nancy. When I came to Historic Santa Fe in 2014, Nancy was not here. She had been previously, but not yet again. I first met her when Ken Stillwell arranged a lunch at the Hotel Santa Fe sometime in 2014, and she began working on me to collaborate with SAR and to publish a new edition of Old Santa Fe Today. She could work you over with an endearing smile on her face and then a laugh, and it worked. When she passed away, I wrote a short memory for the HSFF newsletter that read in part, several years ago I visited her in the SAR press building at her office, and after a serious conversation about some HSFF governance issues, I turned to leave and saw a table lamp that appeared to show a cow inside the clear body of the lamp being raised in a beam of light to a UFO hovering above. I was certain this was a person to be reckoned with. She was, and she still is, through her writing. Nancy got her new edition of Old Santa Fe Today, the 5th edition, and worked hard to do so, acting as fact checker and editor along with Mac Watson for Audra Belmore's research and writing of the book. Ken Stillwell was our chair at the time, and he championed the project, perhaps thinking about that lunch with Nancy and me in 2014. Melanie McWhorter, your executive director, and a tough act to follow, was the tireless taskmaster in pulling all the pieces together, working on the design, and getting it all done. Then Nancy stepped up to chair the committee charged with researching and writing the interpretive panels that you see presented in the history room, part of the El Zaguán master plan, which in no small part was instigated by Larry Good even before he joined the board. The committee that she chaired was comprised of dedicated, serious, maybe brilliant people. And as such, it was not surprisingly a job of herding cats for her. But she did so, brought the project to order, again with an endearing smile and a chuckle. She was ill during both of those projects, incapacitated for weeks at a time, and then reappearing, smiling, ready to work. The day she walked into a meeting with her new hair showing, the scarf removed, was joyful for her and for us. Nancy left an indelible mark on this organization, all for the better of us all. It was an honor working with her, getting to know her, and being able to remember her today and all she devoted to this organization. I'd like to read one of her written pieces printed as a sidebar in her book, A Peculiar Alchemy. It gets to that sense of humor that I saw in the cow and UFO lamp in her office. And I can picture the ongoing delight she took while she was working on this piece. I can see her laughing out loud when she was working on this piece. The Return of Adolf Bandelier. Nearly 60 years after Adolf Bandelier's death in 1914, SAR President Douglas Schwartz discovered a letter and a small medieval kind of key in a file labeled Bandelier's Bones. From the letter, Schwartz learned that when Bandelier died in Sevilla, Spain, the school's board had paid for his burial. The key was the key to his crypt. Excited, he told board officer John Meme about the discovery. Meme replied, "Doug, that's great. Bandelier should be buried here at Bandelier National Monument." Schwartz asked Booker Kelly, SAR's attorney, who was in Sevilla at the time, to find Bandelier's grave. Kelly located his remains, which had been removed to an ossuary, and helped arrange their return to New Mexico. On March 3rd, 1977, a crate containing human ashes arrived at the Albuquerque airport. Upon opening the box, reported staff member David Noble, we discovered not an urn with ashes, but a small, handsome casket. Inside was a smaller box containing bones. The casket fit perfectly inside a Spanish chest in the school's boardroom, where Bandelier remained for the next 3 years. For the National Park Service had refused the school's request to have him interred at his namesake monument. Michael Brown, I bet you're glad that still wasn't there when you were. Quote, "We have a policy that only nationally known or renowned figures can be buried in national parks," the chief counsel explained. "Well, you named the park after him," retorted Schwartz. In reviewing Park Service regulations, Noble later discovered that although burials were restricted, no mention was made of scattering ashes. "I suggested that the school cremate the bones and then scatter the ashes at the monument," he recalled. On October 16, 1980, a small group joined Schwartz in a private ceremony at Bandelier National Monument. At a spot where Schwartz found the view the most beautiful, he lifted the ashes to the wind. A century after his first visit to Frijoles Canyon, Adolphe Bandelier had finally returned. Can't you see her writing that?
Thank you. I want to get the clip.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Pete. So our second speaker, I'll hold it up right here right now. Our second speaker this evening is Janet Stoker. Stoker worked in fundraising and membership at School for Advanced Research. She then led fundraising at the United World College, USA. Nancy and she worked together in preparing grant applications for the Resident Scholar Program at SAR. She and Nancy were also both members of the 15 Club. So welcome, Janet.
Yes. Let's see, maybe over here because of the name tag.
Okay, got it.
Okay, good.
There you go. And just hold it a little closer.
Yeah, there we go. This is called Reading to Spot. And I heard Nancy read it, but I cannot now remember. This is, the loss of age. But, and she wrote it in November 2017. At the age of 19, Kitty Kitty was taken by a coyote as he dozed under our portal, leaving only Annabelle, who spent her days curled up in a basket by our heater. "I think you need another cat," said Paul. "I don't know about that," I told my husband. But he was probably right. It had been a long time since we had one that frolicked around the house and sat on our laps. Suddenly, I envisioned a lively kitten, perhaps a Maine Coon like Annabelle, who had been a Christmas gift 11 years ago from my daughter. When Paul offered to take me to the Santa Fe Animal Shelter, I accepted. I had never had a shelter cat, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But as we perused the cages in the feline section, I quickly realized there were no kittens. There were also no Maine Coons. But there was a gorgeous Siamese. "I'd like to see her," I told the woman at the desk. But as she brought the cat to the visiting room, she warned us not to touch her belly. "She bites," she explained. "Let's keep looking," I said to Paul, who already had his eye on another cat. "What do you think of this one?" he asked, indicating a large white male with orange spots. "He loves to purr," he said, reading the tag. In fact, he was purring to the point of trembling when the young woman brought him into our room. "He seems nice," said Paul, as he tried to coax him out from beneath a chair. Then there were 2 smaller black cats. "What do you think?" asked Paul. "I think we keep looking," I replied. But a trip to the Espanola animal shelter also proved unsuccessful. Then, in early February, I saw a newspaper ad. "Look," I said to Paul, "there are kittens available on Sunday, and the shelter is waiving fees for older cats. You should go," I said, for I had a meeting that morning and a feeling about the ad. I had just gotten home when Paul arrived, lugging the cat carrier. "You did it," I exclaimed, expecting to see a kitten. But out popped the large white male with orange spots, the one with the loud purr. But he wasn't purring as he fled to our clear-story windows, where he remained for the rest of the day. We named him Spot. "Give it 6 months," said Paul, who had to get a ladder to get him down. By this time, I had fixed up the back bedroom, complete with pan and food dishes. It had once been our son's room, but now the back wall was piled high with boxes, which is where Spot stayed. He shied away when I reached up to pet him, but he had a good appetite, for his dishes were always empty. After 2 days, I opened the bedroom door, hoping he would explore the house, but he didn't budge. Well, if he wouldn't come to us, I would go to him. At the time, I was reviewing art history books. I grabbed them from my office and lugged them into Spot's room. Positioning myself on the spare bed, I opened Olive Rush, finding her place in the Santa Fe Art Colony, thankful that Jan Gilmore had written such an interesting book. "Did you know that Olive Rush loved cats?" I asked Spot, "and that she took care of Georgia O'Keeffe's cats when she was away?" And so it went. A few days later, Spot jumped off his perch and sat next to me. The next day, he waited for me. I finished the book, but decided to read the next one in our bedroom across the hall. Spot followed me into the room. As he curled up next to me, I told him about Mabel Dodge Lujan and modernism. But by then, he was fast asleep. Gradually, I introduced him to the rest of our house. It took him 5 weeks to venture into the living room. Then one day, he jumped up on my lap. As Spot opened up, Annabelle declined. Diagnosed with cancer, she died that April. In May, at my daughter's urging, I acquired a Maine Coon kitten from a breeder near Taos. Millie became a lively addition to our household and adored Spot. Even Paul warmed to my designer cat, as he called her. But it is Spot who follows me around the house and keeps me company when I write. I was just finishing an article about the Santa Fe Art Colony when he jumped up on my desk. "Did you know that Carlos Vieira had 6 cats?" I asked. Spot gave what was now his standard response. He closed his eyes and purred. Nancy loved chocolate, but I think she may have loved cats even more. Okay, where do you want to go? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much, Donna. And now, last but not least, I'll put this up here. We have Laura Holt. So Laura was a librarian at the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture, Laboratory of Anthropology, for 25 years and another 15 at the School for Advanced Research. where she worked with Nancy Owen Lewis to provide support for the Resident Scholar Program as well as organizing the archives at SAR. So help me welcome Laura Holt. And then I'm going to clip you, if that's okay. I'll hand this to you. Is that comfy? Is that okay?
Okay. I'm sure that most, if not all of us gathered here, are well aware of Nancy's gift for finding unusual and often quirky stories and telling those stories lucidly, finding the connections between personalities and events, as well as the spark of humor that characterized her talks and her writing. It was Nancy's careful research, which I was privileged to assist, that enabled her to find the threads in complicated braids of events, organizations, and individuals. But it was Nancy's gift to tell these stories, some that we thought we knew, with new insights that left the reader or listener with a deeper understanding of and appreciation for the characters and their influences on our history. My reading is from an article in an edited volume titled Women, Collecting, and Cultures Beyond Europe. True to Nancy's form, the article weaves together the actions and interactions of individuals, institutions, and events for an audience not necessarily aware of, let alone familiar with Santa Fe's history. I've selected one strand from the braid of personalities and events and edited her essay for length, following one string in the braid of ideas, knowing that you here can provide the context. I encourage you to read the entire article. It's well worth it. Collecting Indian Art in Santa Fe, abridged, with apologies to Nancy for the liberty. In the 1920s, 5 classmates from Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania arrived in Santa Fe, where they quickly became part of a community of artists, writers, and intellectuals, many still reeling from World War I. 4 had served in Europe during the war: Gertrude Ely, Amelia Elizabeth White, and Martha White as volunteers, and Elizabeth Shepley Sargent as a war correspondent. Margreta Dietrich, the only one of the 5 who had married, would be a widow by the time she moved to Santa Fe. Fleeing industrialized America, these women, like other newly arrived Anglos, sought the more authentic life that Santa Fe seemed to offer, only to find it threatened by the same forces that they sought to escape. They quickly joined efforts to protect Pueblo land, promote health, and preserve its culture. They restored and lived in adobe houses and collected Indian art, not only to decorate their homes, but to foster the survival of both an endangered tradition and the people themselves. Born into privileged families, they attended Bryn Mawr, an exclusive women's college, and referred to themselves as the Bryn Martyrs, women selflessly and idealistically devoted to improving the welfare of others, as Sargent explained. Upon their arrival, Santa Fe was a city desperately trying to recreate itself. As the terminus of the Santa Fe Trail, it had once been the largest, most powerful city in the territory. When the railroad arrived in 1880, the trail ended, and Santa Fe was soon eclipsed by Albuquerque. Within the next 30 years, New Mexico's population had doubled, while Santa Fe shrank. To reverse the trend, in 1912, Mayor Arthur Seligman created a planning board and invited archaeologists Edgar Lee Hewitt and Sylvanus Morley to participate. Instead of trying to resemble mainstream America, they urged the city to stress its unique heritage, including its Spanish Pueblo Revival architecture and rich Indian heritage. The strategy seemed to work. In 1920, when Elizabeth Shepley Sargent and Gertrude Ely arrived, Santa Fe's population had increased to over 7,000. Then, in 1923, Amelia Elizabeth White and her younger sister Martha arrived from New York City. Purchasing an old adobe house on Garcia Street, they built an 8-acre estate. Finally, in 1927, free music. Yeah. Finally, in 1927, Margreta Stewart Dietrich, a wealthy widow originally from Philadelphia, moved to Santa Fe. Accompanied by her sister Dorothy Stewart, she moved into an adobe house she had purchased on Canyon Road. Upon their arrival to New Mexico, the Bryn Martyrs quickly became aware of threats facing Pueblo culture and other Indian communities and how art was being used to revive the area. Edgar Lee Hewitt expressed concern over the decline of native arts and crafts stemming from the coming of the railroad, which flooded the Southwest with manufactured goods. During the early 1900s, Hewitt and several concerned art teachers dedicated themselves to reviving Pueblo traditions. Hewitt encouraged the wife of one of his workers, Julian Martinez, to replicate pottery discovered in a nearby archaeological excavation. Maria Martinez agreed, and her husband offered to decorate it. Pleased with the results, Hewitt offered to sell their wares at the museum. Pottery making proved a somewhat stable income, and by the 1920s, 2/3 of the households in the village included at least one potter. Painting soon proved to be profitable for natives as well. To help interpret the sites he was excavating, Hewitt commissioned Crescencio Martinez to paint images depicting the ritual cycle of San Ildefonso. These new collaborations also offered natives the opportunity to work with new mediums. Although painting on ceramics and walls had a long tradition in Pueblo culture, painting on paper was new. Martinez ultimately produced dozens of paintings and was selling them in Santa Fe. In 1918, a devastating influenza pandemic swept through New Mexico, taking a heavy toll on the Pueblo people. That same year, Elizabeth DeHuff, whose husband was superintendent at the Santa Fe Indian School, invited select students to her home for afternoon art lessons. DeHuff arranged with Hewitt to exhibit their watercolors at the Santa Fe Fine Arts Museum. The show, dance, and ceremonial drawings delighted the art colony, including Taos newcomer and art collector Mabel Dodge Lujan, who purchased every painting and sent them east, where they circulated among several galleries. Modernist artist John Sloan, who had arrived in Santa Fe in 1919, arranged to have the collection shown in 1920 at the Society of Independent Artists exhibition in New York. Art historian Bess Murphy critiqued the show and referred to it as a defining moment that helped revolutionize American modernism. As a result, the art community began to view Indian painting as an authentic American counterpoint to European modernism and its embrace of African and Asian influences. The exhibition and circulation of native artworks in various circles helped place Indian painting in the category of art rather than craft. Avid patrons, who would soon include the Bryn Martyrs, quickly embraced the new art form. In the early 1920s, proposed legislation threatened to strip the already beleaguered pueblos of thousands of acres of land. In 1921, New Mexico Senator Holm Bursam introduced a bill that would allow non-Pueblo people to claim reservation land if they could prove continuous possession for 10 years. Designed to settle competing claims over land, it threatened to transfer vast sums of their territory to primarily Anglo ranching and mining interests. When news of the bill reached the Bryn Martyrs, they launched 2 organizations to fight it. In 1922, Sargent, together with activist Margaret McKittrick, founded the New Mexico Association on Indian Affairs, which quickly garnered support from artists and writers. Meanwhile, Elizabeth White enlisted the help of anthropologists Frederick Hodge and Herbert Spindon on the East Coast to form the Eastern Association on Indian Affairs. Providing much of the funding, Elizabeth White served as secretary. To defeat the bill, the art community and patrons mobilized. Wielding art as a political weapon, They sought to introduce the public to the beauty of Pueblo culture, thereby gaining sympathy for their cause. In 1922, Hewitt, with the help of Kenneth Chapman, launched the Southwest Indian Fair as part of Fiesta. The Indian Fair goal was to encourage Native artists to return to traditional arts, to educate the public about the Indian arts and crafts, and to provide a market for their work. That same year, Elizabeth White opened Esau on Madison Avenue in New York. In contrast to the traders who encouraged Indians to make cheap souvenirs for the tourist trade, she promoted art. An advocate of Indian chic, as it became known, the shop served as an extension of the Southwest vision Elizabeth White had cultivated. She sold well-made collectibles like Indian jewelry and home furnishings, including Pueblo pottery lamps and Indian baskets that she used as trash receptacles, including imposing her own usefulness for the baskets. Esau was also the first store to feature Pueblo watercolors. Her goal was not to make a profit, which it didn't, but to develop a market for Indian art that would benefit both artists and their communities. The Burson Bill was defeated in 1923. Oh, thank you. Oh, by the way, there are no copies of this in town. I had to interlibrary loan it to the Laboratory of Anthropology Library.
So, as you know, one of the important things that we do at Historic Santa Fe Foundation is care for both of these historic homes. And there's something that I missed in this, in telling you the stories, were some of the interesting things that if you look around, like we redid this fence this year and the other fence, and all of the volunteers, including Miles and John Gregory, who's not here this evening, received at least, oh, John, look, there's John. John is our world record holder for the amount of Huck Finn references that have been made outside of El Zaguán while painting a fence. It was 19, John, right? 19. And then we're going to be doing the front wall in about a week. So Jacob and then we'll be taking on that task. And then one other big accomplishment, while not Jacob's most important accomplishment this year, we redid the Zaguán. He oversaw that with some hired contractors. And then we rebuilt the wall. So thanks to the board, too, for getting behind some of those capital campaign and maintenance projects that we need to do. The wall was falling in, and it's beautiful. So if you look out back, it's gorgeous. And then one of Jacob's big accomplishments this year, which we did not have success with a company that we hired, was catching 9 squirrels. And I'll let you know that he took them all 10 miles away at least, because we found out that's how far you had to go so that they wouldn't come back. But he took them all to the same place, so they're reunited with their families. So we do lots of projects here. We take care of both of the buildings, but we couldn't do it without all of you. And people like nancyowenlewis, who was so pivotal with this organization, and then our current board and our volunteers and all of our members and donors. So thank you all very much for being here. And now go get some food. Before you leave, there's a little more food in there, and then enjoy the garden. So thank you very much.